So again, as Travis said, my name is Ed Baker. I do a lot in SEO and data science. I'm also really big into e-commerce. And today we have the Squarespace SEO Masterclass. So the first thing I like to tell you is obviously I'm a small business owner, just like you guys. I'm not this marketing agency or really a marketing guru. I'm actually known as the red carpet guy. I come out of the events industry. I started as a nightclub promoter, became a nightclub photographer, and then started an event rental company. And I did events from Saratoga Springs, New York to Manhattan. And we did all sorts of installations. And I wound up specializing in event carpet and laying red carpet at big events. So how did I get into SEO? Why would you want to, listen to a guy like me from the events industry about SEO? Well, I was frustrated as a small business owner. I was hiring, consultants and experts and agencies, and I just wasn't getting the results that I needed to. And I'm a guy who asks a lot of questions because I'm curious. I like to learn, and I wanted to know how, SEO worked and what these agencies were doing for me when I was just handing over, these big checks. And I could never really get like a straight answer. And it really just frustrated me. And so I started reading about SEO for 2 hours a day. I got the college textbooks. I went into all the Facebook groups. And I've held that to be true, kind of like a Warren Buffett's, style strategy for quite a few years now that I've just been reading constantly. And what I came to find out is I needed to stop listening to SEOs to get results in search engine marketing. And I needed to start to listen to data scientists. And all along, while I was learning this, I had transitioned my business into e-commerce with Squarespace because it was easy to use and I didn't need to know how to code, and I could quickly set up different stores for different product types. And I just really kind of fell in love with the platform. It made it easy to stop being so much of a web designer or developer, being stuck in my website every day, and actually being able to be the red carpet guy and events guy. So I didn't have to worry so much about my website. So in this masterclass overview here, I am going to cover how search engines work. Again, working with SEOs, nobody's ever been able to explain how a search engine works to me. So I went out and I learned. We're going to talk a little bit about on-page SEO, off-page SEO. We'll talk about links. And then obviously with any time left over, we can talk about some SEO myths and do some Q&A with some of you folks here. So I have a lot of information to share with you, and I'm just going to kind of burn through it. That way you get as much value as possible today. So I'm just going to go, because again, I have probably about 70 slides. We'll see if we make it through all of those. So how search engines work, I'm going to get you into the mind of a robot. So I want to introduce you to this idea called entity-based SEO. And the reason I have to introduce you to this is it's a worryless way of doing search engine optimization. It'll make you algorithm resistant and update proof. It establishes you as a topical authority in whatever industry you're in or whatever niche within that industry you're in. And it clarifies a content strategy of what you should be doing on a daily basis with your content on your websites. So SEO, I want to redefine it. It really means this big long word, disambiguation. Now, to put that in layman terms, what is disambiguation? It's removing uncertainty. So your job, if you're learning SEO or if you're running a website, you got a Squarespace website or another website, you need to remove any uncertainty from the search engine robots in order to rank correctly. So let me give you an example here. So if I'm on a search engine and I type in the word Jaguar, the search engine isn't 100% sure what I meant. So it puts diversity in the query or the string or the question that I'm asking. So it says, well, Ed, you said Jaguar. Did you mean the cat, the big cat, the animal? Did you mean the sports car? Did you mean the guitar or the operating system? So it has to guess because I haven't given it enough information. I've created ambiguity. So what is a search engine? How does it have these recommendations between a cat and a sports car? How does it know about this? Well, it has these things called nodes and edges. And what nodes are, they basically are these points of data that store all sorts of attributes and information about entities. And these edges are the relationships between these nodes, right? And there's data on those edges as well. So when you look at this nodes and edges kind of setup, which is the data science perspective of of how a search engine works. And if you look at the pattern of how a search engine works, you're going to see something that looks really similar. You're going to see pages and you're going to see links, right? And pages and links are just another term or way to describe these edges and nodes. So designers, developers, marketers, SEOs, content writers, anybody you talk to about search engine optimization, they have this mindset of talking about pages and links. But today I need to change your perspective on that, because I'm talking about the true core functionality of a search engine, not marketing stuff. This is how a search engine works, right? It always talks about pages and links, but behind the scenes, the database, it's actually nodes and edges. Now that's a little complex and hard to remember. So what you guys need to remember are entities and relationships. And that's the new SEO mindset that you have to take. Now, let me explain this better. Entities. So people are going to say entities. Well, that's like the new keywords, right? Kind of. An entity is this, theme, concept, idea, thing, right? And how does the search engine differentiate? So if I typed in the word bat, well, did I mean the creature or did I mean the baseball bat? So it has to figure this out based off of my intent and my behavior and the supporting entities or supporting keywords or ideas around bat. So how does it differentiate? Well, if I was talking about the creature, it's going to be looking for things like fur and wings and teeth and rabies and sonar and things that relate to the creature that we know about the creature. And then if it's talking about the baseball bat, or if I'm talking about the baseball bat, excuse me, maybe I mentioned the word diamond or stadium or foul or strike. So then it knows, oh, Ed means this bat versus that bat. And that's how it's disambiguating. It's figuring out what you're talking about by these supporting entities. So what is this that it's doing? It's utilizing something called natural language processing, NLP. Okay, this is basically artificial intelligence. It was developed in 1940s World War eras. There's things like the Enigma machine where we were trying to hack languages for national, safety and security. And, we're trying to get computers to be able to translate different languages. That's what natural language processing is. It's a computer learning and breaking down the syntax of our language. So how does a search engine read? And again, no SEOs ever explained this to me. I had to go figure this out and learn this. So how they read, we obviously know they can read our articles and that's how they rank and figure out what we're talking about. But I didn't realize that they break down all of these phrases and words into entities. And then your story, how you story tell, that sequence of entities is rated. It's, it knows, and it's giving a prominence or a salient score to each of those words and figuring out like, oh, this is the most important subject matter. So this is the primary entity, number one. This is a supporting entity. So it's cataloging all of these entities, it's categorizing them to figure out, is it a person? Is it a place? Is it, what is it? And it's trying to, again, prioritize these. And the same thing happens in your images. People know that their blogs are read by search engines, their articles and landing pages are read by search engines, but what about your images? Well, hate to tell you this, it's a little creepy. It can see into your images, right? And it can see all of these different entities in the image. And the same thing, just like your text, it actually identifies, hey, that's a sports car. Hey, it's going down the freeway. Hey, there's some trees behind it. And it is ranking the importance of these elements in the image. So these entities are, again, these super important focal point of how the search engine functions. So what am I really saying? I'm going to introduce you to an idea that's 10 years old. Things, not strings. So we went away from, ones and zeros on the internet 10 years ago, and we started developing an understanding of things, or the robots started to be able to identify things, not just strings. So entities are things, themes, concepts. There's sentiment analysis going on as well with the search engine. So they're understanding the tonality of what you're talking about. Is it positive? Is it negative? Again, how you story tell, what the emphasis is on. It's ranking that level of importance and emphasis and, categorizing all of that to give itself a data blueprint of what you wrote or what you put up online. So knowing this, knowing how search engines work now, I need to teach you the fastest way to rank a page. So we're going to talk about on-page SEO. So the fastest method to rank, and this is like from the math perspective, the patent perspective. I have a tactic that you won't hear anywhere else. It's something that it's called the positioning trifecta. So on any web page that you're making on your website, there's three super important areas when you're creating that page for the first time. The page title, the URL or the slug or the address, whatever you want to call it, and then the on-page title, which is like the heading, your H1 tag, right? So just to make sure I'm being exceptionally clear here, this is one of my websites. On the top, you'll see the tab there, and that's the page title, number one, the address bar, number two, and then my heading on the page, my H1, number three. So those three elements are really strong points to disambiguate with the bots, the search engine bots, right? So I want you moving forward to create a trifecta. And what I mean by that is try to align these titles to match as close as possible. So I encourage exact match page title, exact match URL, and then your on page, that H1, you can put more information in that because that's like your article heading, and that's really speaking to the user. Where the page title and the address, people aren't really paying attention as much to that. They're very much paying attention to what's in front of their eyes. So that heading can be a lot more inviting. It can have more of a conversion rate optimization to it. It can be more of like an article title. It doesn't have to be this exact match, but I want you to get that exact match in the H1 tag. So again, if my page was SEO positioning trifecta, I would make the page title that. I would make the URL that with hyphens in between, because hyphens are different than underscores. Underscores means like if I wanted to be United States, I would put United_States, and then the robots would know, hey, this is a thing that's two parts, but it's one thing together. So you always want to use hyphens like that. So to keep this going in Squarespace, when I'm setting up a new page, because again, this is my preferred platform, it's just easy to use, allows me to launch stores, quick. And obviously, as Travis said, there's benefits to being a Circle member and having multiple sites. There's live events, there's these extra training, there's, all sorts of added benefits from like pricing standpoint. So the more sites you do with Squarespace, or you just need 3 to become a Circle member, the better it gets. So I make my page title, my URL slug, my primary entity. In this case, it's my red carpet site. So that's what I'm focusing on. And then the next thing where you want to get your primary entity, so we've talked about the positioning trifecta, is in your meta description. People know that meta descriptions are important. And if you don't know what a meta description is, it's just the description that comes up in search under the hyperlink before you click on it. So when you get your search engine results, each one has a little meta description. So it's really for the user, it's less for the robot. And what's happening right now is search engines are actually rewriting meta descriptions on people. So whatever you're putting in the meta description seems to always, get changed by the search engines. And to stop this, if you include your primary entity, right, in the first few words in that first sentence, because the robot understands left to right is important in English, just like we do. So the closer I can mention that primary entity, or the sooner I can mention it, the more the robot realizes what this page is about. So you'll see in the bottom right there, I'm saying SEO description for my Squarespace, meta area that I'm putting in the description. So I had put like buy or rent a red carpet, because red carpet is what I'm after to rank. And I'm putting that primary entity in that first sentence in hopes that being explicitly clear, I won't have my descriptions rewritten. And then the second thing to that is the intent. Like, I'm saying buy or rent a red carpet, right? I could be even more specific in my intent and have one page for buying and one page for renting. So think about your intent and what your primary entity is. And, is it a recipe? Is it a quote request? Is it a step-by-step guide? Is it a list of things? Like, try to be very clear as to what you're talking about in that first sentence. Now let's talk about headings. So designers and developers are typically not using their website headings correctly. And what I mean by this is you have to think about your on-page content kind of like a dissertation, right? The H1 should be used for primary entity. It should then have subheadings or H2s that are supporting entities, right? And most designers I've encountered, they're using the different H heading tags for aesthetics. They're like, making, this is a cursive font and this one's, I don't know, a sans serif font or whatever. And they have all these different fonts and they're using it to make their page look beautiful. And what's happening is they're triggering ambiguity because they're confusing the robot, because there's actually a hierarchy to these tags, and you should very much use these tags in that hierarchy. So to really get this point home, I want to talk about if we were going to make a page on BLT, bacon, lettuce, tomato sandwiches. Okay, so just stick with me on this. So if I'm making a page on a BLT sandwich, that's my primary entity, BLT. Well, what are the supporting entities to a BLT sandwich? Well, obviously bacon, lettuce, tomato, and then toasted bread typically is part of the sandwich. And then this is where art and science kind of meet. Let's get to mayonnaise. Some of you are going to say, ooh, gross, I don't eat mayonnaise on my sandwich. I don't want it there. Well, your competitor might mention mayonnaise and you don't mention mayonnaise, and it's this one little word or concept or supporting entity to the idea that puts them ahead of you. So if you're writing a page of content, this used to be enough information to rank. You would have your BLT as your H1 header. Then I'd have my H2, which is bacon. I'm gonna have a paragraph on bacon, a paragraph on lettuce, under a new heading, H2 lettuce, H2 tomatoes, H2 toasted bread. So I have my H1 and I have my H2s. I have what the page is about, and I have all the supporting entities that I'm gonna write supporting information about. Now, that used to be enough, but what's happening is there's so much data in the world now that in order for you to rank, you need to give these search engines more information. You need to confirm and qualify yourself that you're truly an authority and that you truly understand a subject matter. So if you think about a rule of fives, 5 points of disambiguation, if you feed search engines 5, they can typically, it breaks the math. They typically now, without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, know that I'm talking about a bacon, lettuce, tomato sandwich. So in this design here, I'm suggesting you create what's called a content cluster, or you'll hear other SEOs talk about it as a hub and spoke model or a pillar page with, power posts. And, there's a million marketing words around this, but essentially what it is it's this primary entity with 4 supporting, pages, right? And it's creating this cluster of disambiguation so the robot understands what you're talking about. So if you can create your content in groups of 5s, and just to visualize this better, you can see my BLT page, then I have a page on bacon, page on lettuce, page on tomatoes, page on toast. This cluster is powerful because it really tells the robot that not only do I know about BLT, but I know about these other parts of the BLT. So I truly am an authority on this subject matter. So if you start doing this, the math tips in your favor, regardless of the search engine, and you will start to rank better than you ever have. Now, writing a better content page, like I said to you before, sometimes it only takes one more entity that you didn't mention. So maybe it was mayonnaise, right? Or maybe it's something that you're not thinking about or seeing. So how can I possibly be the expert on BLT if I didn't mention the word knife in my article? Because you need a knife to spread the mayonnaise, you need a knife to cut the sandwich to serve it. So the fact that I didn't mention knife in my article, they may very well be the reason that I'm not outranking a competitor, because when the search engines are reviewing our content, well, the other guy just knows more than Ed, so his site's not going to rank as well. So the rules, H1 headings, use only 1 per page. Do not use them for design. Use them to tell your story and to prioritize your story. Don't cause ambiguity. And what I tell everybody is our entire job as website owners is to never let the robots make a decision for us. Once it gets subjective, the robot's gonna, make a decision that is not in favor of us. So and then include that primary entity in that H1 heading. Whatever you're going for, make sure it's in there as an exact match term in your heading. Otherwise, you have no chance. Your H2s are supporting that primary idea. So break down your concept into subsections and use those headers to reinforce what you're talking about. H3s, I usually use them for like FAQ questions or Q&A at the bottom of an article. That's really helpful. Or if it's a really complex subject matter, you might need H3s to then break down some of the H2s on a specific page that's robust with information. Anything above that is really just used for design purposes. Oh, I'm using this different font, or I'm using, and here's the funny part, if I make an H8 or an H11, there's no rule that says I can't make that as large as my H1 tag, right? So if I need another, design element, you can do so. Just don't use your H1 and H2s as design elements. Use them for information architecture design. The next thing we got to talk about is image SEO, because we just talked about how text works and how to set up my titles and that positioning trifecta. So image SEO, I told you before, the search engines can see into our images. They can identify entities and prioritize those entities. So I'm going to give you the positioning superfecta, which is if you align your page title, your URL, your H1 tag, and you put an image and then maybe an interactive element or a video, and they're all named the same thing, right? In my case, red carpet, red carpet, red carpet, red carpet, red carpet. I'm giving them these 5 points again of disambiguation, saying I'm absolutely positively talking about this subject matter and nothing else. So this can really, really help you rank, in the top 100 websites for any industry very quickly, because you're giving the robot the correct information on you. Your actual images, Google and Bing and Yahoo and all of the major search engines are reading these files. So they're reading the file name. So before you upload that file, make sure you're putting your primary entity in the file name, the intent, any geolocation if you're a local business, any services or attributes or colors or sizes, anything goes in that file name. Then the alt tag that you fill out, you're going to want to put that information there as well. And then depending on which platform you use, again, I use Squarespace, and let me jump to a page quick here. So this is my account dashboard. I have all my different websites in here. Right now, I'm going to jump to a site I'm working on relaunching. It's my red carpet site. We shut down during COVID because obviously events were not happening, and we're going to relaunch. And this is kind of why I've pivoted my career a little bit into digital marketing, because events weren't happening. So I needed something to do. I was really bored. So I have this page here that I've been working on. That's going to be my red carpet page. It's going to talk about the product. That's going to kind of have this interactive element of, that product. But I want to show you what I'm talking about with images, because we're on image SEO. So if I click here on this image and I click edit, and sorry, Zoom's covering that window, I got to move it. So in Squarespace, it's really easy. I can put in my image alt tag, make sure it's the primary entity. I can change that file name. So if I forgot to do it before I uploaded it, it's right here. And then I can toggle, if I want one more place to put more information about this image, I can always put like a caption below or in an overlay. And again, that's one more spot where I can tell, the robot, hey, this is what this image is about. And it's super easy to just put in your information under that image. So let me jump back to the slides here for a second, because the other thing you have to consider is, since it's reading this image, so you have the file name, the alt tag, and the caption, but then you also have the image itself, because it can identify entities and read text in images. If you put your name, address, phone number, if you watermark your logo, you put your website URL, maybe you put a bulleted list of your services, or maybe you have a QR code, any of that type of information that you put in your image is read by the search engines, and it becomes part of your online brand. And most people don't realize that they can use their images to help reinforce what they're talking about simply by adding text and adding logos and adding website URLs. And, it might make the image look ugly to some, but use it with your discretion. I mean, each image is a point that you can sculpt your online brand with. So next thing I want to talk about, we talked about text, we talked about headings, we talked about images. Your homepage, people will ask me, well, how do I optimize my homepage? So in Squarespace, it's really easy. They give you this spot where you can just put in your description and change the title format of, your homepage itself. It's just, again, super simple, super fast to make a change if I decide I'm targeting something else one day. So how do you optimize your homepage? Well, if you're a national SEO or a national brand doing national SEO, then I highly suggest you use whatever primary entity you're at and your brand name. So a good example, I'm going to show you Squarespace right now. Look in that upper right where the pink is highlighted with the arrow. They are putting website builder first. Then they're saying create a website in minutes, and then they're saying Squarespace. So website builder is the primary entity. They want to be known as, the best website builder. They want to be known as a household brand name. Hey, Squarespace, that's a website builder. So that's what they're after. That's what they're defining themselves at. The create a website in minutes is really a conversion statement. It's a marketing statement. It's trying to tell you how easy Squarespace is, that you can make a website in minutes, and you truly can. And then following all of that is their brand name, Squarespace. So in this case, my suggestion to them is, hey, primary entity and brand. They're putting that marketing slogan, create a website in minutes, in between, which is okay as well. But reinforcing that primary entity and your brand gives the search engines true understanding of what you are, who you are, what you do. If you're a local company, you would do a similar thing, but you should add your geolocation. So if Squarespace only was in New York City, and they were nowhere else in the world, and they only helped people build websites in New York City, they would say website builder, New York, Squarespace. And again, that's giving the robots enough information for them to realize, oh, this is a local business. They help this geographic area. So it's super important on your homepage to put that if you're a small local business. Now, if you don't want your homepage to rank for any reason, because maybe it's cannibalizing, you have a product page or a service page, and now your homepage is ranking, but you want that product or that service to rank instead, you could always just use your brand name on your homepage, and that will stop the ranking, because you're not including that primary entity that you're after, and that way you can put the emphasis on another page. So this is typically a strategy for people who are having trouble with their website or an enterprise level company, like a big household brand name. So next thing I want to talk about is off-page SEO. We talked about getting your on-page, your homepage all aligned, your content, your entities aligned so the search engines understand you. So what do you do off of your website to be helpful? So again, sometimes you'll do what I told you. Hey, that Ed guy was a liar. He told me to do this content cluster and it didn't work. I didn't rank. I did my 5 pages. I linked them up and I'm getting nowhere. Well, you might be in a really competitive niche, right? Or industry. So what you have to consider next is taking this same data, this same structure that you have, and theme mirroring it, getting it on social media platforms, getting it on blogging platforms, getting it out there on the web, any place that lets you talk about yourself, any directory, right? Where you can put in a description, your name, address, phone number. This is important. And the reason I'm not using any one social media icon or blogging outlet icon is I don't want you to get caught up in, oh, he says to go use this platform or that platform. No, the game is get your data across as many as you possibly can, because if your footprint is across all of these other, important brands and properties out there, and it matches to what you're ranking for on your web, or what it matches to on your website, then you can be ranking for that, because it's reinforcing, hey, this cluster of information that Ed made is all about BLT. So now when we go see his image gallery on such and such a platform, or we see his posts on such and such a platform, it's about BLTs, it's about bacon, it's about lettuce. So it matches up. So they're not necessarily a ranking factor, but they help. They're like a signal. They help reinforce what your website is about. So your job is to theme mirror over and over and over again and get your information out in as many places as you can. And this is why SEO is infinite and infinitely scalable, and why you have to work at it every day. Because if you stop and your competitor keeps going, one day they surpass you with their digital footprint. So name, address, phone number. I said you can put it in your images and how important that is. NAP, you'll hear SEOs talk about. This is so critical for your brand online, because everywhere your brand is, you should have that matching name, address, phone number. This way, all of the search engine robots and all of your customers, that's your phone number, that's your email, that's your website, that's your brand name. Consistency is the name of the game. So Squarespace gives you a nice business information area where you can input this information. You can put in your physical address, your phone number, your hours, right? Mirroring all of this information anywhere you possibly can is super important to your brand footprint, and just reinforces who you are and what you do to the search engines. Your linking to social media profiles is also critically important, because again, once they go out to those platforms, if they see the same types of content there, reinforcing what's on your pages, on your website, then they know that you truly are who you say you are and know what you say you know. So we all know links are really important. I'm just talking about linking out to social media and stuff like that. But let me get into a little bit more technical on links because we know links are important, but they're hard to get links, right? So I want to remind you, what is a link? It's a relationship between two entities. So that relationship carries data on that link. So I went out and I found my business and I found its physical location on a map, and the URL that it has, as you can see here, it has all this technical information on it. It has my business name. It's saying this is a map, this is a place, this is the business name, these are the geo coordinates. And then it has all this other data and strings that I don't really even know what they mean, right? You don't know what they mean. But this is proof that when you get outside of your website, all of the other websites that communicate in the world, they're passing data on HTML links. This is how the internet works. This is core functionality, right? So links are associations that pass data between an origin and a destination. So what else comes on that HTML hyperlink? You'll hear SEOs talk about link juice or link equity, right? So I want you to think about this. If you put a single link on a page, it's theoretically going to pass 100% of the link equity or juice to the next page you're linking to. If you do 2 links on a page, theoretically, 50% goes to page A, 50% goes to page B. Now, the more and more links you add to one specific page, the more and more you're dividing up that equity. You're reducing its potency, you're reducing its impact. So my lesson to you is to link with care. Really pay attention to who you're linking to, when you're linking, how you link in between your pages. Because in your head, you say, oh, I got 8 links on this page. Each one of these links is getting 12.5% of the link equity. Well, wrong, because now you've opened subjectivity for the robots. The robots get to decide, hey, Ed's got 8 links on this page. Which link is most important? And most of the time, the robot's not going to make the right decision. So you can really sculpt the journey, the customer journey, the robot journey, however you want to look at it, carefully with your links. So link with care. Internal links, I want you to treat these extremely carefully. Put thought into where you're linking. Don't just link to every other page on your website just because. Do it very carefully, very relevantly, right? Because you want relevant things linked and irrelevant things not linked, because that helps, again, disambiguate or remove uncertainty to robots. So when you're linking around on your website, use synonyms, use long tail keywords, use call to action, use raw HTML links. You can link in all different ways. You don't have to keep saying, red carpet, red carpet, red carpet. You can vary that up. Maybe it's red rug or, custom red carpet for birthday party. And it could be a whole hyperlink, and the robots will pick up that contextual relevance from each of those internal links. So talking about internal links, what I want you to do and think about, avoid reciprocal linking, meaning page A links to page B and page B links to page A. Because in that type of relationship, there's not a more important page, right? They kind of nerf each other out or cancel each other out. So if you can, whenever you can in your content or your site design, create a minimum of 3 linked pages, because it allows the search engine to pick up enough data to disambiguate and to accrue more information than it could just by going back and forth between 2 pages. That extra hop is really important. And if you want to do a really amazing job, that's why I was suggesting the content clusters to you, having that one hub page and 4 supporting articles, blog posts, landing pages that all support this one page and this one idea, because again, it gives the search engines enough data to understand your website. So what about outbound links? I just tell everybody, don't do it. And you say, oh my gosh, Ed, like, why? That's going to look unnatural. The search engine is going to be like, what are you doing? Well, you can call me a narcissist, but the truth is, anything that I'm building on my website, I'm accruing ranking scores from these search engines. I don't want to share that necessarily with the world. And if I do want to share it, I want to be very careful who I'm sharing it with. So if I ever outbound link to anything, I'm making sure it's extremely relevant. It either has to be about my primary entity that I'm trying to rank my brand for, my specific niche, or my geolocation. Like, hey, a link to your local chamber of commerce website, that's not going to hurt anything. In fact, it reinforces that you're a part of this association that's in your geographic area. So a link like that isn't a bad idea. But in general, people outbound link to all sorts of stuff, sites, different categories, different topics, and they cause ambiguity. And then all of a sudden your site isn't as clean and semantic as it could be. And it allows the robots to say, hey, well, was Ed's site about red carpets, or was it about BLTs because he linked to that BLT recipe? So we don't want the robots pondering. So be very, very critical of who you're linking to, because it's truly a data association. It's truly a relationship online. Now, link building, how do you get links, right? Because we know they're important. Obviously, you can do some blogging. You can get links through professional associations and citations. Like I said, getting your name, address, phone number, and website on different social properties and any place that allows you to fill it out online, any type of directory. There's also press releases. So when you have something really important, don't be afraid to put out a press release. Hey, we hired somebody new. Hey, we're launching a new product. Hey, we have a new service. Check this out. It's not a terrible strategy for getting links from reputable places. And if you're at all concerned about your domain, your reputation online, use a short URL. So what I mean by this is if I'm doing a press release, I can, instead of linking directly to my website, I could link to a short URL that then links to my website. And the reason being is that short URL, these search engines know it's a URL shortener. They know all the big brand URL shorteners that are out there. And that shortener is not going to get penalized or get any bad, juice, as SEOs want to call it, if you link there first and then to your website. So basically it's a buffer. It's a shield. It protects your money website, is what SEOs call it, money website, right? So final thing I want to talk to you about with URLs is redirecting them. It's up to you, being a website owner, to have regular maintenance. If you move pages, you don't want to just delete it and walk away because you've accrued some sort of rank or link equity or juice from the search engines. You want to pass that somewhere else in your website. And this is the same reason why I'm saying don't always just link out from your website, link back into another page of your website and keep your equity, keep your juice, help elevate your property. So whenever you are ready to redirect a page or you've made a bunch of changes, another reason I love Squarespace is you don't have to code these redirects, right? And let me come back over here just to show you how easy this is. So if you go to settings, advanced URL mappings. So let's say I had a page, my red carpet page, and I decided, hey, I actually want to call it the bright red carpet page. I can very quickly and easily put in, and it's very basic syntax that Squarespace lets you use. So I just do /red carpet, and I could do bright red carpet, and then I tell it 301, which basically says to the search engines, this is a permanently moved page. So any ranking score, any clout, any credit you are giving that red carpet page, please pass it over to the bright red carpet page now. So it's up to you to let the search engines know anytime you're moving pages and to make sure you hold on to that equity that you worked so hard at building. So every time you add a new page, you can sign up with the search engines and you can request them to index that page. If you update a page, you should resubmit that page and say, hey, I updated this page, come take a look at it again. And if you do a ton of restructuring on your website, then you can upload a sitemap. So you don't individually have to upload, 100 URLs by yourself. You could just upload the sitemap that covers all of your pages. And then the search engines know, hey, this is the newest version and complete version of the website. And again, another reason I love Squarespace, I just have to put /sitemap.xml, and I can take that whole URL and just plug it into the search engine and say, hey, here's my updated website. And then it knows all the new pages I added. It knows how I moved everything. And, again, as a webmaster, as a small business owner, a lot of people don't know, but you can have open communication with the search engines that you're trying to rank on. And it's important you let them know every time that you do, make those updates. So that being said, that's kind of my presentation. I've covered the on page, the off page. I told you how search engines worked. I'm going to open it up to Q&A, and I listed a couple SEO myths here just to kind of help the conversation out. If you're not sure, I can answer any questions you have about SEO. I can answer any of these. We could talk about some of these myths, or we can revisit part of my presentation if I wasn't clear. So please, anybody that's here, let me know, how I can help you.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. Vic and Ben, if either of you have any questions, feel free to ask Ed. It's a great opportunity. anything that's on your mind about SEO, Squarespace SEO, definitely the floor is yours.
And like I said, if anybody's shy or not sure what to talk about, I can run through some of these myths if you'd like to hear more about them. So let us know. I'll give it another minute before I just keep moving on. All right, we'll just keep moving on then. I'll talk a little bit about
It
white
looks like
hat
there
and
are
black
two
hat.
questions in
Oh, you got one?
in the chat. Yeah, Ben asked, what timeline does it take to rank?
So that's a great question, Ben. So the way I would describe this to you is getting on search engines is an inertia-based process. So if I start today and I start putting out content on a brand new website, it could truly take some time to really build up and build some credibility and build a reputation with the search engines. So there's no black and white hard answer on this, but I will tell you that from my research and understanding, it looks like the search engines travel in approximately, because nobody truly knows the answer, 21-day cycles is kind of how it's refreshing. The algorithms are more like a live stock market. Every day they're fluctuating. Your pages fluctuate every day, but your overall like site health and trends, they typically seem to come in these 21-day cycles. So, getting it out there within 21 days is possible. Now, if that's not happening, again, my suggestion to you is make sure whenever you're launching new pages that you sign up for one of these webmaster accounts with whatever search engine you're trying to rank on and submit your pages, submit your sitemap, because that's how it's going to know that your pages exist. Otherwise, you just have to, by chance, hope that somebody linked to you or social media enabled your website to be found. If you don't tell the search engine, hey, I have this website, then you're just kind of sitting back, twiddling your thumbs, hoping that they find you. So it's really going to be based on your action. So if you communicate to the search engine, hey, I have this new website, here's my sitemap, here are my links, go, please come crawl it, please come look, then, they will. Hopefully. It's not guaranteed, right? Nothing in life's guaranteed, but at least you have that open communication channel. Most small business owners, most people in the world don't even know that you can have that communication with the search engines. So I would submit, and again, know that it's possible to get something up and ranking and indexed on a search engine in 21 days. But again, it also depends on your industry, your niche. If it's super competitive, it might take you a very long time to get noticed. And that's why the quality, the quality of your content and your imagery, and again, focusing on your entity and defining yourself as the expert of whatever it is that you're going for, whatever your business is super important to that. Hopefully I answered that one.
That was a really great answer. And kind of like following up on that, Vic asked, do you have any Squarespace specific SEO tips and tricks?
So what I like about Squarespace is you don't have to, there's no like tricks to it. Like when I've used like every other platform you can imagine, right? I've run websites on all sorts of different things. And I always, I chuckled and laughed when I came to Squarespace because I was like, okay, well, what SEO plugin do I put in? And it was like, there are none, or they don't do plugins. And I was like, well, why don't they do plugins? What's up with that? And then I realized it's like, how broken is your website platform if you have to install all these plugins and make sure it works for you the way it's supposed to? Where Squarespace out of the box, I'm telling you, out of the box is beautifully optimized. I wouldn't just say this. I've had my businesses on the top page of Google for what I've been after. Many different businesses. I've been able to do it pretty quickly. So my tips and tricks are really that positioning trifecta. If you can get your page title, your URL, your H1, aligned. And then if you want to go to the superfecta, add an image, add that video or interactive element and name everything similarly. And all that information stacks and reinforces the idea. So that would be the first tip for you. And I know it's not necessarily a Squarespace tip, but like I said, Squarespace doesn't need any magic. It doesn't need a plugin. It doesn't need extra code or anything like that. Out of the box, you can get these pages to rank. Obviously, just make sure you fill that stuff out. And when you're in Squarespace, let me get out of the presentation for a second. When you're in Squarespace, you can find on any page, right? You can find that SEO area, and it's just the most important area for you to fill out. So Squarespace again has this SEO tab for this red carpet page that I'm going to show you here. So in here, making sure that you have that title the way that you need it, making sure that you have your meta description with the primary entity in the first few words. So this tab, SEO, making sure this is filled out. And then of course, just on the general tab where you have your page title, this is the navigation title, what actually shows if it's in the navigation, and then that slug is here. So my SEO tips for you on Squarespace: critically pay attention to your page title, your URL slug, pop over to SEO, make sure that you've put that information in here as well, and make sure you've filled out that description. Because if you don't fill this out, the robot's going to generate something for you. And in fact, you'll fill it out and the robot will rewrite it and you'll be like, oh my gosh, why is it doing that? And then I'm going to remind you that you just have to make sure you get that primary entity in there, because 70% of the time, anything you write in this box, it's not Squarespace's fault. It's not anybody's platform's fault. It's what the search engines do. They're trying to match the user's intention better than you and I are. And they have the data to prove it. And that's why they change it on us. They change our titles too. So yeah, focus on these tabs, focus on that SEO tab, focus on that general tab. And then anything you're putting on your page, name it, right? If you have an interactive element or video or an image, make sure you're putting, you know, names on all of those things. That's like the most critically important thing. And then Squarespace will do the rest for you. You know, if you optimize that page well, you don't have to worry about anything else. There's no bells or whistles or anything that you got to add. Any other questions here? I'm going to look. So I don't see any more questions in chat. Travis, do you want me to jump back and take a couple of those myths? Or you have anything else you want me to cover?
Yeah, if you want to jump into the myths, that'd be great. Vic, Ben, feel free to ask any other questions that you have. But otherwise, yeah, it looks like we did just get one from Ben. He asked, do you recommend any set expert SEO? I think he meant SEO. Do you recommend any SEO expert consultants?
So I obviously have been down that road. I've hired a bunch of people, but the number one expert that you could find is just go out and do a search for natural language processing, read about it, learn about it, right? Because most SEOs, from what I found in the industry, being a small business owner, trying to get an agency, trying to get a consultant, trying to get somebody who knows truly what they're doing, they've never, again, been able to explain to me what I just explained to you today. They've never shown me, hey, that's how a search engine reads text. That's how a search engine reads images. And because of that, I can't wholeheartedly recommend anybody, because they haven't been able to tell me that they've known enough about the search engine. So be aware of natural language processing, go read about it, you know, see if you can find some tools out there, because they do exist, that will help you, you know, I guess, break down and story tell with your content best. And that's really the best advice I could give you, because again, I think we have an entire industry, and it's not to bash or harp on SEOs, but I've had a lot of bad experiences being a small business owner and hiring people and just not getting results. And it's simply because they've skipped over the foundations, they've skipped over the fundamentals, and they have that shiny object syndrome, which is why some of these like SEO myths, right? Like I could talk about page speed. Everybody's like, oh, page speed is this huge ranking factor. And I'm like, it's not. At best, it's a tiebreaker, right? And you say, well, how could it not be a ranking factor? I'm not suggesting it's not. Like if you clicked on a page and you had to wait 16 seconds for it to load, of course, that's too long and the user is going to bounce to some other place. But at the end of the day, that's such a micro part of SEO, but everybody's like, oh my gosh, no, it's site speed. And what's funny is like Squarespace is a little bit slower of a site typically, and it's not a slight or a bash to Squarespace. People, you know, other people in SEO world will be like, oh, it's too slow. Well, that's not even a you know, major ranking factor. And the reason it's a little bit slower is because the interface, right? Like when I go to actually edit my site, it's so easy and so fluid, and it has all these nice features, and I don't have to know how to code. And if I want to put in a button or text or images or whatever, this is all built into the backend. So of course it's more robust. It's going to take a little bit longer to load, but that doesn't affect your ability to rank at all, nor is it a concern. It's a concern when it's an outlying factor. Like I said, if you have a 16-second load time or something ridiculous, of course, no one's going to wait for your website to load. But, you know, yeah, it's funny what people get caught up in. I guess they skip over those fundamentals. They have the shiny object syndrome. They kind of play the game of telephone as well. I've done a lot in groups and reading what people had to say. And I always was like, well, is this a macro factor or a micro factor? That's how I look at it. So getting your content in alignment, getting those entities in alignment, that's a macro factor. Your page speed, micro factor. Because if I have a beautifully engineered, informative page that users like, and it takes 5 seconds to load and they interact with it, like the search engines are going to be like, wow, that's a great page. They don't care whether it was, 2.3 seconds or 3 seconds. They care about the quality of it far more than how quick it was delivered. So again, it's not that it's not entirely, something to pay attention to, but people just get the priorities mixed up. Any other questions before I keep going down this list?
It does look like we had one more from Vic. Vic asks, does Squarespace have its own SEO internal audit tool that gives an SEO score and suggestions? It looks like he's thinking of something similar to Google Ads, where it shows how optimized the ads are and gives suggestions.
No, I don't think that. So we know that Squarespace doesn't have any type of internal audit tool or give any type of suggestions. But like I said, the reason I even liked it and started to use it is because I had heard it was SEO friendly. So I looked into it and then I tried to rank my sites and I was able to rank them very quickly. And again, I think what's great about it is it doesn't have all these complexities and audit tools and everything like that. It's very simple and you can rank off that simplicity. And again, if you're going to look for an audit tool, again, I would tell you, start reading about natural language processing, start reading about entities, start reading about sentiment analysis. Don't go just buy third-party tools that audit your website that tell you what to do, because at the end of the day, that's a third-party opinion. It's not the search engines. So it's somebody else guessing how the algorithm works and giving you some ideas. But what I just showed you is how a search engine works. So if you can stack that primary entity and support that primary entity with supporting entities, and you can engineer your pages in these clusters, that alone is going to be so much more powerful for you than any tool or any suggestions you're going to get anywhere else. So nothing to hold your hand there, but those would be my recommendations, because again, I don't think it needs to be there, which is why it's not there.
Awesome. Cool. It looks like that was perfect timing, Ed. We are right at 1 hour. Is there anything else you want to share with the rest of the group here before we are done here with this presentation?
I don't think so. Like I said, I had a couple other myths here, but if we're hitting time, I don't need to run into all of them unless somebody wants to throw one last question. I think we can be done. And obviously, thank you so much for hearing me out. I hope with your new mindset, your data science mindset, you can approach SEO different than ever before, and you will see amazing results if you take this approach, because again, this is how the search engines function at their core functionality. So.
Great, Ed. Well, thank you again so much for hosting this awesome, informative SEO Masterclass. And we look forward to following up with you afterwards. Thanks so much for the attendees and obviously the registrants that weren't able to attend. There will be a recording. So looking forward to sharing that out after it becomes available. Let me see. There might be one other question. Yes, there will be a recording. So be on the lookout for that in the next week or so. Okay. Well, thanks so much, Ed.
Thank you.
All right.
See you all later. Thank you.